Cluny has Le Hostellerie de Heloise, and you'd expect there to be a fair number of Michelin-star restaurants in Chalon-sur-Saône. But with a population of 5,000 people, Tournus, on that main gastronomic corridor to and from Dijon, must surely have more Michelin stars per head of population than anywhere else. In the actual medieval town itself, there's Old Terrace, which is more modern cuisine. Le Terminus is also modern cuisine. Le Acrin de Johann Chapuis is described as creative, which might mean you get the littlest portions out of any of them, but it's very artistically arranged. I'm not too sure. But the former orphanage provides an out-of-ordinary venue for the cuisine. Creative is all about the emotion. And premium seasonal produce. The crayfish from the Soane, turbot, with the emphasis on from small fishing boats. Charolais beef, which is a bit too lean for me. Goat and spinach gnocchi, with a thyme jus. Saddle and cutlets of lamb. Langoustines tempura. Green asparagus. Morel mushrooms. Le Quay, a different restaurant, is fairly new. It wasn't there 10 years ago when I started passing through on the way to the Alps. But as you would expect, a very pleasant terrace on the side of the Saône river. Calf's head and sweetbreads with morel cream. Red wine and parsley sauce complements the earth's omelette. But it's all about the pedigree of the chef and who they've trained under where when it comes to Michelin. Michelin-star restaurants act as stables for chefs, a little bit like how Napoleon established his 30-horse stud farms around the country. I'm sorry if that seems like a slightly tenuous link to the second half. Cluny, where the monastery was torn down to build draft horse stud farm stables to provide the military and the empire with the best they could. But Napoleon did like quite a small horse. Perhaps to make himself look bigger on it. Quite diminutive himself. But the key, fairly traditional Burgundy cuisine. Similarly, you would expect the regional cuisine to be what Le Bouchon Bourguignon offers. Its generous, meticulous cuisine, inspired by the culinary traditions of Burgundy, is served in contemporary setting of the annex to Johann Chapuis fine dining restaurant. The regional classics are present and correct. Pâté, croûte, maison, Greuze. More about Greuze later. Eggs murette in a red wine sauce, fresh frog's legs in a parsley sauce, breast chicken with morels and vin jaune. Breast chicken, if you haven't had it, you really need to. It's a completely different experience to the chicken that we have day to day. Don't want to put you off with this description, but it's so succulent it's almost oily through and through the breast. Vin jaune, yellow wine from the Jura used in the cooking of the food. A carpaccio of Charolais beef, verbena oil, cherry tomatoes, and shavings of Comte, a cheese from the Jura again. The sommelier, the wine expert, serves from magnums of wine, huge bottles, but happy to serve just a glass. So essentially you've got a two-part restaurant there. You've got the traditional cuisine and the creative modern juxtaposed to your taste and fancy. Yes, but in the town square of Tournus there's a statue to their famous son. Greuze is a painter. No, he's a figurative painter. He earned a lot of money in his lifetime, blew it all, and ended up in almost poverty, really. Looking through a few of his works, I don't quite know how to describe this on YouTube. It seems to have what appear to be really quite young girls, and he seems to have painted quite a few of them with lifting their breast or their nipple out of their dress. He was very popular with the French kings and concubines and queens, celebrated at court. It would appear everyone wanted something risque from their boudoir. What isn't graphically illustrated is demonstrated in symbolism. Quite what a girl with a dead canary symbolises almost seems to be like a secret that she can't tell. There's quite a few where the child really just looks bored while sitting for him. I couldn't think that I saw a flash of ADHD in the eyes that he painted, the one seemingly only wrapped in a sheet. Crumpled so he can show the light and shade on the sheet. Another painting of a girl, the broken vessel. Broken eggs, the village bride, the malediction paternelle. Paternal. Why the morning prayer needs to be like a naked over-the-shoulder number, I'm not too sure. The scolded son, he appeals to all tastes. 1725, everything was a commodity in 1725. Greuze formed his own talent, though he was taken away as a boy to Lyon, later Dijon, Paris, and spent some time in Italy. Perhaps that's where he picked up the Greek themes. Even in his time, Diderot read his letter, which was honesty and reverence itself. He had seen Greuze's response, which was a model of vanity and impertinence. He died in the Louvre. His wife embezzled some of his money, but he blew most of it. He always had a freshness and vigour to his flesh tints, and an enticing softness to his expression, of the alluring air of health and youth. Perhaps interestingly, Constance Meyer was one of his pupils, a female painter often credited in her later painting partnership. He used to have a Michelin-star restaurant named after him, but I can't find record of it now. Perhaps his style has fallen out of fashion in these modern cuisine times. You'd hope so. As a small boy of 9 in 1778, Napoleon left his native Corsica with his brother Joseph and his father and travelled to the French mainland to attend school in Autumn, Saône Loire region. Joseph remained there for the duration of his studies, but Napoleon stayed just long enough to learn to speak, read and write French under the watchful eye of Abbot Chandon. Napoleon left after 3 months, having been admitted to the school of Brienne in Aube. At school, Napoleon excelled in mathematics, showed a great interest in geography, but history remained his favourite subject. He was judged capable of entering the Corps de Cadet Gentilhomme at the military school in Paris. For 3 years he trained at the Auxonne Artillery Academy. It was supposedly during this stay in Burgundy and that Bonaparte acquired a taste for Chambertin wine. Already the 7th century monks of the Abbey of Béziers produced a high-quality wine within the Cloister Béziers in Gevrey. Their peasant neighbour Bertin produced a fine wine as well, and at his death the monks from Béziers acquired the land called Champ de Bertin, Champ being field. Bonaparte is said to have drunk half a bottle cut with water with every meal. The wine merchants, Soup et Pierre made an arrangement with him that he would always have a bottle of Chambertin available, even in the midst of battle. 1796, he's commander-in-chief of the Italian army. Napoleon's arrived in Châtillon-sur-Seine with his brother Louis. They stayed with one of his school friends, Auguste Frédéric Louis Vies de Marmont, at Chateau Châtelotte. A young lady, Victorine de Castanet, played the piano and sang at his request. She was more than surprised at his sudden departure for Chanceaux, where he spent one night. He had already met Marie-Rose Josephine Tacher de Pagerie. As if that wasn't a long enough name, she was also known as Josephine de Beauharnais. The singing was nice and put Josephine in his mind. When Napoleon returned from Egypt in 1799, he headed for Paris by way of Chalon-sur-Saône and Nevers. This same year, he was voted Premier Consul of the Republic and stayed in Dijon. In May 1800, Napoleon settled at his Dijon headquarters for a few days in the Bruyère de Lanthenay, the townhouse that's now the prefecture. Napoleon the same year created the Bank of France. The prefects established the Senate, the tribunal, the new constitution, and escaped an assassination attempt. Encouraged by Napoleon's desire for the re-establishment of Roman Catholicism as the state religion of France, Pope Pius VII negotiated the celebrated Concordat, which was signed in Paris on the 15th of July, 1801, and ratified by Pius. January 1802, Napoleon travelled to Lyon to be elected president of Italy. On his way, he spent the night in Lucy-le-Bois, passed through Salieu, ate dinner at Autumn, slept in Chalon-sur-Saône, and had lunch in Tournus. Tournus, perhaps having more Michelin-star restaurants per head of population than anywhere else in the world. While travelling, Napoleon still had time to restructure the French education system, sign the Treaty of Amiens with England, and create the Legion of Honour. His reforms were so popular that he was proclaimed First Consul for life, 1804, which spurred Napoleon to open negotiations with Pope Pius to secure his consecration as emperor. The Pope conceded, and Napoleon Bonaparte was subsequently crowned emperor in the Cathedral of Notre Dame in Paris in the first days of December 1804. On his way to Italy, Napoleon stopped again at Chalon-sur-Saône with his entourage at exactly the same time that Pope Pius passed through. Chalon, with his train of 16 cardinals and church dignitaries, it was out of the question that either the Emperor, His Holiness, stay in an inn, so appeal was made for a house that could accommodate 106 people in total. The widow, Madame Chiquette, offered her grand residence, one of the biggest and most comfortable in Chalon. The monumental stairway occupies a third of the structure of the house. You can visit it. Napoleon, who obviously relied heavily on horses to conduct his empire battle campaigns, ordered the creation of 30 breeding farms across France. These stud farm and stallion deposits were installed in former religious buildings, including the former Abbey of Cluny, spelt differently, to your silver fox of the silver screen. The 10th century Abbey of Cluny had grown up to be a centre of one of the largest and most important monastic movements in the Middle Ages. Its 12th century church, known as Cluny III, was the largest church in Christendom until the building of St. Peter's in Rhone in the 16th century. The Abbey church and its surrounding buildings were perhaps tragically demolished at the time of the French Revolution, and the stone was used for building other structures in the town, including the stud farm for Napoleon. Mainly a cart-horse type lineage, they put on shows in the summer. Napoleon continued to wage war on England, but after a massive naval defeat at Trafalgar, he turned his attention towards Austria and Russia. He won a decisive victory at Austerlitz, but his invasion of Russia in 1812 was catastrophic for France. In the start of 1814, European sovereigns invaded France. Macon, and the confluence of the Soane and Loire, had been taken by the Austrians, who were now advancing north towards Tournus. Some 300 soldiers and peasants from Tournus, Chalon-sur-Saône, and Saint-Jean-de-Lozan, in the Cote d'Or, marched south to lend a hand, and they managed to liberate Macon, these 300 soldiers. Napoleon decided to honour and thank the trusty band by awarding the towns with the Legion of Honour, which he himself had created. Here's a gold star that I created earlier. Tournus is one of the few towns to have the distinction of displaying the symbol of the Legion of Honour on its town crest. Napoleon was back to Burgundy after his defeat and exile in Elba and escape. 1815, he travelled to Auxerre, to the prefecture of the Rhone, where he received Marshal A. It would have been wonderful if he'd have been in charge of the horse stud. He was sworn to King Louis, but in Auxerre, turncoat and supported Napoleon. Fighting once more beside Napoleon at the Battle of Waterloo, he was greatly criticised and tried and executed. Napoleon lost and was exiled permanently to St Helena, dying in 1821. But Napoleon's faithful Burgundy soldiers continued to honour him after his death. Grogner was the name of Bonaparte's old guard, and is now the name of the oldest cafe in Burgundy. Established 1830. It's on the right-hand side of the Route Nationale as you head to Dijon from Gevry. It was painted pink last time I went past. The entrance is surrounded by a peculiar rock structure and looks as if it would be more at home on a beach in Brittany. It was called Le Relais de Soldats de Napoleon. Then the Café de Rocher to become Table de Rocher. It is named because of the decor of the rocks, combined with the original wall paintings from the 1800s depicting Napoleon's various campaigns. The entrance is one of the rooms that has been carved from rocks in the shape of the island of Corsica. It serves traditional Bourguignon cuisine. Fixin, near Auxerre, has traditional Corsican trees in a park and 100 steps cut into rock representing the 100 days of its glorious return, and a bronze sculpture, Napoleon Awakening to Immortality, by Francois Rude. Rude, a Dijon sculpture. The Napoleon Bonaparte Museum is based on his house in Elba, where he was exiled, packed full of mementos and souvenirs. There's the vineyard Le Clos Napoleon and the restaurant Au Clos Napoleon in Fixin. Apparently, on Saint-Hélène, Napoleon said to Marshal, "Believe me, Marshal, when I'm no longer of this world, buy a piece of land in Burgundy. It is the land of the brave. I am loved there, and you shall be loved there too, because of me." The dissolution of the monasteries and demolition stopped France being able to return to feudal times. Serfdom, slavery, still practically legal in the next-door Jura region, Franche Compte, by regional government changing national laws. Far-sighted ideas like 30 horse-breeding stables. He wasn't just using and disposing of what he'd got, what he'd found. He was planning, establishing improved raw materials for his war machine. But from that comes much of the respect for the people that is the modern socialist government structure.